The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. So, kids shouldn't be listening. Elton says fuck and shit a lot. Sometimes fucking shit, but rarely does he advocate actually fucking shit. You get it. Enjoy the show.
Dating in the internet age. The anxiety that comes from texting and non-consensually finger-banging someone's mouth. All coming up next on this episode of Elton Reads a Book a Week. Elton Reads a Book a Week.
It's time for Elton Reads a Book a Week. My friend, he'll talk about a book that he's read, but he won't read them to you. Why? Because he's afraid he'll get sued. Shit, right. This is Elton Reads a Book a Week.
Welcome to Elton Reads a Book a Week, the internet's first ever podcast to rhyme taint with think. I think. I didn't research that to find out if it was true or not, but it just kind of feels right. It sounds right, and really that's all you need these days, isn't it? My name is Elton, and I read a book a week. This time, the book is Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari and Eric Kleinenberg. It's a gripping saga about a young man meeting a much older, very elderly woman and the illicit affair they have against the backdrop of the seedy, crime-ridden world of underground retirement community shuffleboarding gambling rings. Apparently, it's a pretty terrifying and violent scene. By all accounts, shuffleboard is a horrific and deadly sport. According to the FBI, in a study done in 2018, it single-handedly caused the murder rate among octogenarians to quadruple in recent years. In an example given, an 84-year-old man named Mortimer Buck was found dead with a shuffleboard puck lodged in his mouth and the words, "That's the last time you ride the rail on me, Morty. Get fucked, Buck." That was crudely written on a flyer advertising a bingo chili cook-off at the local VFW. And that, in turn, was stabbed into his fucking back. He was found sitting at his kitchen table, hunched over a half-finished crossword puzzle with an open book of shuffleboard strategies lying next to him, and it was hard. It's actually kind of it was awful for me to learn about all this because I couldn't help but picture my own grandfather, just shuffleboarding in some back alley somewhere, strewn with empty tubes of Preparation H and denture cleaner everywhere. And maybe he's going to get roughed up. His good shuffleboarding hand will get broken over some bet he couldn't pay down because the vig ran too high on him. And he's like, just look what they did to my good shuffleboard hand, Elton, my boy. And he just sadly exclaimed, "How's your pappy gonna get any of that sweet shuffleboard green now? How's he gonna get it now?" And then he just cries. Okay, I'll stop. That's ridiculous. It's about dating. This book is about dating. I fooled no one. I'm pathetic. If it's not apparent to you yet, I have no idea what I'm doing. No, like I said, this book is about dating, not the carbon kind, or the calendar kind, or the fruit kind, but the hopefully we be humping later kind. Now we all know what dating is. It's as old as time itself, probably, I guess. The art of dating, as St. Augustine of Hippo famously said on August 26th, 428 AD, a mere 2 years and 2 days before his death at 75, he said, quote, The internet has screwed up dating so badly. How am I supposed to find someone to bump uglies with? I mean, oh, and also marry and stuff. It straight up sucks ass these days, bro. Unquote. Or wait, that doesn't sound, I don't think that quotes that. Hold on, let me check. Let me make sure here. Okay, according to Wikipedia. Yeah, he totally fucking said that. 100% seriously, 100% accurate. He was right, too. The world, for all its interconnectivity, seems to have left people feeling more lonely than ever. All the apps, websites, and social media sharing and messaging stuff aren't the magic hippie love-in we all thought it would be. Remember when they promised all that? All those promises when they were like, it's going to be a love-in like all the hippies had in Woodstock, where all the people were fucking, all those, whatever. Those promises were broken. And they, whatever. You would think the opposite, though, right? Access to piles of people just like you, waiting to meet piles of other people just like you, and everyone piles. As it happens, finding someone in that pile of bodies is hard, and it would seem like it's getting harder all the time. That special someone to spend a little, time with, to get some coffee with, maybe play some wiffle ball with, and then they laugh at how bad you are at wiffle ball, but they'll be willing to stick around a while, while you do a quick search to find out what wiffle ball really is. You thought you knew, but I guess you didn't, and then you look, and they look at you kindly, with that kind face when you find out that it's just a Beastie Boy lyric from a song. You incorporated that song into your head. It's just a lyric from Paul Revere, and you thought it. I don't know. You thought it was maybe a euphemism for whipping your dick out, in the desert, and then here you are holding your dick in the desert. That special someone, that person who will put up with all that, that's getting harder to find, is what I'm saying. Today, we're going to explore why finding that person is so damn hard, and do it with the help of Aziz Ansari, a noted comedian, comedy writer, and questionably gross guy, allegedly, and his sociologist collaborator, Eric Kleinenberg. As an added bonus, maybe we'll even get some tips on dating and how to do it online and all that, with the apps and stuff, and actually, how to actually up your game of dating, or whatever the cool people are calling it, in the next half hour. Shit changes so fast now. Who knows? Give you some tips to find that wiffle ball bat connection. But, inside. Boom. Copyrighted. That's copyrighted. You can't steal it. You heard it here first. It's mine. So, take a think break from searching for someone that tickles your finicky fancy as well as your tickly taint. And let's get into Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari and Eric Kleinenberg. And yeah, did you hear that? I totally fucking rhymed taint with think. It's called assonance rhyming, people. Knowledge is power, folks. Knowledge is power. Like that callback I just did there too, by the way. Taint and think on purpose. So, this book is about romance in the age of the internet and texting and online dating and apps and what else? Tinder? Grindr? Those are the ones that you just fuck. I mean, you meet to fuck. You get it. Internet things that help you meet and fuck other people in today's world. Not entirely just fucking, but, just meeting to be maybe romantically involved, or in the modern. Meet people to date. I had some coffee. It's about the book is about how all of that changed. Technology changed all of that, the way people meet romantically, and also made it weirder and harder They do that by comparing how older generations, in the book, they do it by comparing how older generations of people used to meet up romantically and how younger ones do it today too, and how they view that whole dating process and why it's way different now compared to those older people. And moreover, this book painstakingly shows that it's not just you. We're all swimming in absolute loneliness shit here. Dating loneliness shit. You can smell it in the air. Like non-love. What was that? A metaphor? No? Simile? Fuck it. I didn't do it right. Regardless, still, you get it. Getting a girlfriend, boyfriend, they friend, all of it in the modern age as of, 2015 when this book was written. Kind of weird. Anyway. And not just for hookups for sex, like I said before, though I'm sure bumping uglies is included with the idea of dating, by the way. Just so you're not leaving that out. It's probably included. You know what? Shit. I'm getting ahead of myself here. For those unfamiliar, bumping uglies. Hold on, let's see here. I don't want to be crude, per se. I don't want to. But I don't know. I'm just going to try and broach this subject with a little bit of tact here. I don't want to overwhelm. Okay. Just hear me out here. It's a delicate. Here it goes. It's another word for porking, boinking, stooping, as the Jews say. Tossing a happy hot dog down the great wet way, which is, not gonna lie, kinda mean. She can't control that. Doing squat thrusts in the cucumber patch, maybe rolling in the hay, putting the wonder wand in the chamber of secrets, taking old One Eye to the optometrist, bam bam, in the ham. Fucking. It means fucking. All of it means fucking. Sex, fucking, you get it. You get it. I think I did that same thing in the Kinsey episode, but god damn if I don't enjoy it. If I don't enjoy it enough to bring it back again. God damn. So why did Aziz Ansari write a book about dating in modern times? That's an interesting question, and when I meet him, I'll ask him. See you then, folks. Thanks for listening. Good night. You know what? I don't know why I still do that bit from time to time either. It just seems like a natural thing to do from time to time. And so that's why it's here again. And as history has shown, man can never beat nature because of my nature to do such stupid things. Nature always wins. Always. Ask your bladder about it. Okay. Aziz got the idea because of a texting back and forth he had with a woman named Tanya, which isn't her real name, to be clear. He changed it for the purposes of her privacy, and as a comedian does, when he does change names, he's going to repurpose it for a comedy bit, as comedians often do, to profit off of. That's what they do. Those awkward moments of his life turned over for the giggles of the crowds. Gotta love capitalism. I'll be your private dancer for money. I don't know what happened there. I'll stop. Not gonna lie. Don't know how Tina Turner even showed up in my brain. Tina Turner even showed up in my brain. What is happening? It's a stroke. The situation Aziz built his comedy bit from. That involved him texting back and forth with Tanya after he quote-unquote hooked up with her. I guess after a few rounds of text, she ghosted him, as the kids say today, or they do for the next half hour or so. I don't know. I'm so out of touch. For those of us who don't know what ghosting means, it means she straight up stopped texting him back. Just dropped him. No explanation. What a fucking asshole, right? Or was she? As it happened, this wasn't something that was singular to Aziz. No. In fact, he would find out that when he was working this bit out, it's a fairly common experience amongst people his age. And, insert stunned gasp here. People his age and even younger. Yep, folks, just cutting out of a text exchange, leaving the other person high and dry. Maybe you know about this, or maybe you've done it, even. It's rude. Well, I think it is anyway, but what do I know? I'm ancient. Fuck, I don't know. Also, side note here. I think the reason she quit texting him back may be due to some allegedly improper dating decorum, perhaps, on the part of Mr. Ansari. We'll get back to that in a bit. Feel free to shout it out if you can spot when I bring it up later. When you spot the faux pas that he allegedly committed. It's a fun little game of hide and go. What the fuck was that about, man? What the shit? It should be pretty fun, I tell you what. I'll try to keep it subtle. Make it a little challenging for you. Just whenever you hear it, be like, there it is. See if you can find why it's possible that a person he hooked up with might not want to text him back. So let's get into this. First, the authors, Mr. Aziz, what am I doing? Mr. Aziz Ansari and Mr. Eric Kleinenberg. Are they even worth fucking listening to about this shit? Before I started recording this, I flipped a coin, and Eric is going first. I contacted him, before the coin flip, and he assured me that he didn't give a fuck one way or another, and to never, ever call or contact him again. And also, why am I calling him at all? Didn't I read the fucking book? And yeah, he fucking did, Eric. So there's that. By the way, who answers a fucking phone call with, yo, who dis, fuckmouth? I mean, what? Eric, come on, man. What if it had been Jesus calling? Do better, bro. Fuck, I just cannot say bro. Too old for it. Do better. Also, that never happened. Eric Kleinenberg is Helen Gould Shepard Professor of Social Science and Director of the Institute of Public Knowledge at New York University. I know, you're thinking, what the hell is a Helen Gould Shepard Professor, Elton? You sorry sack of shit. Explain or be held accountable by the High Court of Edinburgh. Okay, I'll try. Just settle down before you stroke out. Truthfully, I don't even know if there is a high court in Edinburgh or what a high court is, actually. Or why I even said all that. Helen Miller Gould Shepard. She was around from about 1868, actually, pretty accurately, from 1868 to 1938. She was the eldest daughter of railroad financier Jay Gould and a prominent philanthropist. Born in Manhattan, Helen grew up between 579 Fifth Avenue and Lyndhurst in Tarrytown, which is not important unless I just doxed her just now, almost 100 years in the past. Despite her father's public reputation as being the most reviled man in America, in his private life, he was devoted to his children, as they were to him. Perhaps to make amends for his many wrongs, Helen devoted her life to charitable causes, spending over 2/3 of her fortune doing so, whereas her father died with the reputation of being the most reviled man in America. As I said before, she died with the reputation of being the most beloved woman in the country. What a swing that was. What a journey in one family. Whoa. You're probably saying, most reviled man in America? What's that about, Elton? Yeah, I looked into it because when you say most reviled, I am like a cat chasing a laser pointer. Jay Gould himself, he considered himself to be the most hated man in the late 19th century America. And he was vilified by the press as a reckless speculator and a brutal strikebreaker. To many late 19th century Americans, he personified the unscrupulous, greedy robber baron. Apparently, he made his fortune screwing over his business partners with stock manipulation and buying up a railroad from underneath them. Or something like that. You know, old-timey mustache-twisting asshole stuff. Helen had grown up with the tradition that every morning at the breakfast table, her father would distribute the letters he'd received asking for handouts between his children, and it was their job to discern which were genuine and worthy of attention, and which were not. Helen was 24 years old when her father died and received a $10 million share of his fortune, and his house at 579 Fifth Avenue. Again, if you need to track her down, you're going to have to travel back in time over 100 years. But you're welcome for the address that I gave you. Oh, and nab her, or I don't know, whatever you're going to do. You're the psycho traveling back to get her. Nationally, she first came into the public eye during the Spanish-American War in 1898 after giving $100,000 towards the war effort itself. She gave an additional $50,000 for military hospital supplies and worked with the American Red Cross. She personally donated the new library building at New York University, paid $10,000 towards its engineering school, and financed its Hall of Fame. I don't know if that's the school's Hall of Fame or the engineering school's Hall of Fame. Either one shouldn't have a Hall of Fame. Which I'm guessing after doing all that for the schools and stuff is where the title Helen Gould Professor came from, because schools love to slap rich people's names on things if it means they'll be given more money for things. I can only imagine what they would slap my name on if I gave them a fuck ton of money. The most, actually, I did think about it, and the most I would probably get is one of those bins that diabetics dispose of their needles in, like a little plaque right above one of those, above the biohazard stickers. Yeah. No, I could see that happening. Yeah. No. You know what? No. You know what? Maybe, I would get together enough money after family bills and, I don't know, Disneyland or something, and still have enough money to donate, for like a whole wing of a hospital, go big or something. I don't know. And get a nice, they'll give me a nice metal sign above the door, above whatever wing that gets built, that would test for like STDs and brain abnormalities. That's where my name would go. That's the one. Built with a kind donation by Elton for the establishment of sexual regrets and wonky brains. Wing of Dollar General Hospital. I'm sure by the time I get that amount of money together, Dollar General will be sponsoring our healthcare, because this is the worst timeline to be alive in, I'm guessing. Back to Eric Kleinenberg. He is the author of Palaces for the People, How Social Infrastructure Can Help Fight Inequality, Polarization, and the Decline of Civic Life. Another book called Going Solo, The Extraordinary Rise and Surprising Appeal of Living Alone. And Fighting for Air, the battle to control America's media. And Heatwave, a social autopsy of disaster in Chicago, as well as the editor of Cultural Production in a Digital Age, co-editor of Anti-Democracy in America, and co-author of the book we're talking about this time, which he wrote with Aziz Ansari, called Modern Romance. Right? Yes. I had to fucking look at the cover. It's a New York Times #1 bestseller. His scholarly work has been published in journals including the American Sociological Review, Theory and Society, and Ethnography. Yeah. And he has contributed to The New Yorker and The New York Times Magazine, Rolling Stone, and This American Life, a podcast I see as a personal and professional peer and arch rival, and I despise on a deeply spiritual level. They know who they are, and they know what they did. Ira Glass, you motherfucker. I'll never forget or forgive. I'm coming for you. As for Eric Kleinenberg, he's one of those seemingly cagey authors who doesn't divulge much. Good thing there are two of them. Now, onto Aziz Ansari. I don't know why I paused there. A comedian noted for his use of short stature for comedic effect. Doing so has landed him in some hot water more than once, as late as last year, he was involved in an altercation with a dwarf comedian who a drunken Ansari claimed was, quote, outshorting him, unquote. The little person didn't understand what he was talking about and walked away, but not before Aziz punted him across the room, out a window and into a baby carriage that happened to be outside. The dwarf comedian was knocked out cold and wasn't discovered as being an adult little person until he woke up the next morning to the horrified screams of parents as he lay in a crib on the other side of town. What the fuck am I talking about? So many holes in that story, Elton. Did the little person crush the baby that was probably already in the baby carriage? If so, how did the parents not notice the weight change or see their stroller blown apart by that weight? And how dark was it that they didn't even see that a grown-ass little person crushed their fucking baby? And when they got home, how did they miss that someone crushed their baby and was passed out on top of its corpse? And did they lift out the person and take them up to their apartment or whatever and just put this fucking adult little person to bed in the baby carriage and they're like, man, our baby changed shape over so many holes in my own narrative. I digress. Aziz Ansari is an American actor, comedian, writer, producer, and director. He is best known for his role as Tom Haverford on the NBC comedy series Parks and Recreation this fall. On the NBC comedy series Parks and Recreation, and for his Netflix comedy specials, Aziz Ansari live at Madison Square Garden and Aziz Ansari right now. That's the name of the special. Clever. Ansari was born in Columbia, South Carolina, to Indian immigrants who, in a related bit of trivia, were married in an arranged marriage. That's a lot of tongue-twisting stuff. And they're very much in love, according to Aziz. No text and playing phone tag needed. Mr. Ansari's career began when he started doing stand-up while attending NYU during the summer of his freshman year in 2001. He would attend a new talent night thing at the Comedy Cellar. His motivation and beginnings were what Ansari describes as a typical comedian origin. His friend said something akin to, "Oh, you're funny. You should try it. The comedy. You should try the stand-up. After we sober up, you're so funny," or something like that. And then he did, and he had a good time and just kept doing it. At first, he said he didn't do well, but felt very comfortable on stage, and that with practice, he could get very good at it. And with his self-described obsessive personality and his enjoyment of the process of getting better at things, he kept doing it and eventually got to be okay. Often listed amongst alt comics or alternative comedians alongside people like Patton Oswalt, Dimitri Martin, Sarah Silverman, and Janine Garofalo, though of a newer class. He's often ridiculed by some, to some extent, by other working comedians. Why would they do that? Who knows? Comedians can be dicks. I mean, the guy won the jury award for Best Stand-Up at the U.S. Comedy Arts Festival in Aspen in 2006. I've never won any awards for stand-up. I doubt they have either, but I also doubt that I would know if they had. Though, giving awards for performing is kind of stupid, not gonna lie. I consider stand-up to be an art form. I mean, how do you judge something like that subjectively? Unless they're all doing the same fucking act or joke. I mean, but even then you're making creative choices, and I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent again. Plus, comedians are just a weird group. You know, they're stand-up comedians. They're fiercely competitive amongst each other, but also they feel like they're in a fraternity of outcasts against the world. Such a weird tightrope to walk for a bunch of fucking attention whores seeking validation and money from crowds of strangers. Fucking ridiculous. Oh, in a completely unrelated note, if you like the podcast, please consider contributing to it via the podcast Patreon. Link in the description. And please tell your friends, all your friends, and family, and strangers, all the strangers. Aziz would become part of the early 2000s alt-comedy scene in New York, eventually joining an ongoing comedy show at New York's Upright Citizens Brigade called Crash Test. Though I just said joined, I'm not sure if he helped start it or joined in later. So I flipped a coin, the now famous coin from earlier in this podcast. I'm calling it the Eric Kleinenberg coin. It's just a working title. I couldn't find a good origin story for the Upright Citizens Brigade Crash Test show, so Aziz helped start/join it. A veteran improv performer, Paul Scheer, teamed up with Rob Huebel and Aziz Ansari at New York's Upright Citizens Brigade to put on a weekly performance of Crash Test at that time. Through stints at Ansari's weekly UCB show, the threesome honed their satirical act and created recurring characters that Ansari succinctly describes as idiots with high status. Scheer and Huebel have worked together for a long time, and they're just so good together, says UCB artistic director Anthony King. Aziz brings his own thing, but he fits right in perfectly. From the weekly show, Scheer, Huebel, and Ansari go on to form Human Giant, a sketch comedy team troupe thing. I don't know the difference, but you get it. Via performing in Human Giant, they land a TV show deal with MTV. Remember MTV? Man, what a time that was. I remember it transitioning from music videos into softcore reality porn, dance shows, and game shows. The Summer Beach House and The Grind. Oh, and Jenny McCarthy on Singled Out. God bless mid-90s MTV, VCRs, and pause buttons. I tip my 40 to you. I'll move on. In mid-2006, MTV greenlit Human Giant, their sketch series from the Trio group thing, which debuted on April 7th, 2007. The show ran for 2 seasons and the group was offered a third, but they opted to pursue their other opportunities. Why? Why? Because Aziz had better fucking things to do. That's right, he up and fucking abandoned his Human Giant team, and for what? What? In 2009, he joined the cast of Parks and Recreation, which ran for 7 seasons. That's what. Sorry, that was very aggressive for no reason. It's been a very tense time lately. I think it's work-related. Probably burnout. Definitely burnout. Parks and Rec is a really good show. Go watch it after you listen to this. Binge the whole show. It ran on TV from April 9th, 2009 to February 24th, 2015. I can't speak right now. For 125 episodes. It ran that long. For over 7 seasons, and it's really great. Starting in November 2015, though, Ansari starred as Dev Shah in the Netflix original series Master of None, which he created and wrote with Parks and Rec writer Alan Yang. Full disclosure, I never watched it, and I started to while doing research for this, but I don't know. This shit comes off a little wooden, and Ansari's acting has always read a little clunky to me, I guess. So when I watched it, meaning 3 episodes, I don't see how it won all those awards and praise. But I mean, maybe I didn't watch it long enough, or I don't know. I digress. It's probably why I'm not in charge of programming for anything. I'm too fucking particular, man. And that terrible attempt at segueing brings us to the awkward part of Aziz Ansari's saga. His sexual assault allegation.
Nice pivot, dingus.
What have I ever done to you?
Drew me into your web of torment and lies.
I have no idea what that means.
I was told this would be fun.
Oh, I see. I see where this is going. I'm moving on. The following is from a Vox.com article from 2018. On January 13th, the website babe.net published a lengthy account from an anonymous 23-year-old woman, referred to as Grace, about a date night with Ansari circa September 2017, that she said went horribly wrong. She not only calls it by far the worst experience with a man I've ever had, but emphasizes that she has come to understand her experience with Ansari as sexual assault. The story depicted a traumatizing night from the perspective of his date, given the pseudonym Grace. The article, which reported the allegation, describes Grace continually pulling away from Ansari, verbally telling him she wanted to stop their sexual encounter, and Ansari non-consensually sticking his fingers down Grace's throat and forcibly kissing her. She discusses the ways in which she continually asked Ansari to stop by moving away, disengaging, and clearly telling him to chill, and that she didn't want to have sex with him. It also describes her crying her entire way home, feeling that Ansari had violated her. It ends with her recalling how watching Ansari win a Golden Globe felt, saying, it was actually painful to watch him win and accept an award, and absolutely cringeworthy that he was wearing the Time's Up pin. I think that started a new fire, and it kind of made it more real. Grace's anger at Ansari sporting a display of solidarity with victims of sexual harassment and abuse tied back into her account of her night with him, in which she said she was shocked to find that his private persona didn't match up with his public one. Quote, I'd seen some of his shows and read excerpts from his book, she told Babe, and I was not expecting a bad night at all, much less a violating night and a painful one. In a statement to end quote. Jesus. In a statement to NBC's News at the time, Ansari described it as, quote, completely consensual, unquote. He added that she did later text him to say she felt uncomfortable, and that while he was surprised, he, quote, took her words to heart and responded privately after taking time to process what she had said, unquote. I mean, if true, what the fuck? And I'm sorry, who just jams fingers into another person's mouth and or throat on a first date? I mean, holy shit. Like, instantly, if you're on a date and things are getting a little too much for them and they're telling you as much, your next move isn't jam some fingers in their mouth. It would be like, mid-conversation on a date, and you're like, so yeah, I've been at my job for almost 8 years now. Yeah, there's been a few times that I wanted to quit. Sorry, I don't really want to kiss at the moment. Just maybe let's get to know each other. I mean, a little better maybe. Yeah, no, I understand. But like I was saying, yeah, if there's anyone that has a mouth fingering fetish, I apologize. If it's all consensual, do your mouth fingering thing. But also, can you explain it to me? Email me at eltonreadsabookaweek@gmail.com. I seriously want to know. Bad fucking look. I'm sorry if I do say so myself. If true, it's alleged, but this might account for Mr. Ansari keeping a lower profile over the last couple of years. I mean, his acting career was humming along up to that point. He wrote and produced several comedy specials, including Aziz Ansari Buried Alive in 2013, Aziz Ansari Live at Madison Square Garden in 2015. He also created and starred in the Netflix comedy series Master of None, which I mentioned earlier, which premiered in 2015. He also won numerous awards for his work, including 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, and the Golden Globe Award thing, as I mentioned earlier, and a Peabody Award. He has also been nominated for 2 Grammy Awards. After that allegation, he wasn't even the main character in the latest season of Master of None, or so I hear. I seriously cannot get into that show. I guess one of the co-stars took up the main character slot or something. I don't know. Look, I'll try. Okay, I'll give it another shot, but I mean, I just started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Modern Family, both of which I never saw when they were on, and for you, nobody asking, I'll try and make the effort, but I promise nothing. Ansari has continued to work since the allegations were made, though, and has released 2 more comedy specials, Ansari Right Now in 2019, and Aziz Ansari, Nightclub Comedian 2022. He also starred in the Netflix film The Irishman in 2019, with De Niro and Pesci and Pacino. So, I mean, that's something, sure, but, I'd kill to be in that movie. would have killed. I don't think anyway. Clearly, his momentum is broken. Aziz Ansari's, not the other guys. At least in my opinion, which is good. Guys that treat women or anyone in that way don't deserve to have rewarding careers and should be called out. It's atrocious. Unfucking real. Moving on. So Aziz Ansari fucked up by fucking up on a date by doing some fucked up shit, allegedly. It doesn't seem to have ended his career, though, as he is still working, more or less, just more under the radar. And as of June 2022, he's married. So there's that. However, at the time that this book was written, he only had a girlfriend, and he speaks intermittently about his own experiences dating using technology and apps up to and including that relationship. I don't know if it's with the same woman or not. I didn't get that into the weeds. But regardless, published back in 2015, a year my brain refuses to believe was almost 10 years ago. Or was 10 years ago. Or was 10 plus years ago if you're listening to this in the near future. Or 20 years ago if you're in the near far future. Or 50 to 100 years ago if you've completely exhausted whatever archive of audio data sets you're commanded to review. Future exhausted enslaved archivist. What's it like to breathe underwater, sucker? Yeah, I know. We totally fucked you over. We totally could have fixed global warming, but we were too busy playing games on our phones, watching YouTube videos of people scrubbing rugs and basing our existence on an economic structure we completely made up instead of, tending to our own well-being and the planet. Good luck swimming to your boss to tell him about this message before he cuts off your oxygen for being the laziest slave archivist ever. What a horrible future we're going to have. Humanity is a terrible joke unto itself. Damn it. Moving on. So as I said earlier, Aziz had the idea for this book after coming up with a comedic bit for a stand-up thing about essentially being ghosted or no longer contacted by someone he had hooked up with. He had met a woman at a party named Tanya, though of course that's not her real name. She offers to take him to his house and they ended up making out and they go their separate ways after that. Then a few days later, he texts her with an invite to see a band in LA, waits for a response but never gets one. A quick bit from the book here. Texting, otherwise known as short messaging service or SMS, was thought up by Friedhelm Hillebrand, a German engineer searching for a way to strip the humanity from conversations. He thought, what kind of communication makes it hard to convey context and is easy to confuse by twisting the messages using your own personal hang-ups? Text-based communications, of course. Where's my fucking Nobel Prize for making things slightly weird for people when they talk to each other? No. He thought it up in 1984, but it was later achieved by Neil Papworth, a young British engineer who messaged his friend after figuring it all out. Well, most of it all out, as you'll see. He messaged his friend by typing Merry Christmas and sending it as a text in 1992, adding, I believe, to the dark, ridiculous comedy that is humanity. His friend, of course, couldn't answer back because his mobile phone didn't allow him to input text. Such is our weird inability to fully think shit through before implementing it. Hey man, did you get that thing I sent? Yeah man, yeah I did. Cool. So, well yeah, yeah, it was cool. Just cool? It was the first text. No, I get it. Yeah, and it is cool, but did you test it in the lab? With another phone or something? Not okay. I think you're missing the gravity of it. Right? No, I get it. It's the first text message. Yeah. I get it, but my phone, it's not capable. My phone isn't capable of sending of it. It's typical cop-out. Bitch move, man. Bitch move. If I'd known you'd be like this, I never would have sent it to you. You know what? Fuck your Christmas. Wow. Harsh, man. So, yeah. Thanks for that thing on my phone that I can neither use nor reply to. So, next time, send a fucking email. A text-based communication that already exists and that I can use to answer you and say, I'm Jewish, asshole. And scene. So back to Ansari's texting anecdote. He is able to see that Tanya there has read his invite, but is just choosing not to respond. This, as it would for anyone, sends his mind reeling on an emotional roller coaster of self-doubt, over-analysis, and checking his phone all the time like a deranged lunatic. He ended up skipping the concert and instead did a set at a local comedy place. He rolled out the rudimentary bit inspired by his Tanya situation and found that it connected with the audience in a deeper way. He could see that everyone had a similar experience. And fuck people, by the way. Sorry, this is my own interjection. See, here's the thing that I, an old sack of shit, have noticed about phones and more to the point, texting. It's impersonal and people understand and use that to their emotional advantage. It can be a little selfish and serves a mechanism to cushion any bruising of the ego. I'm just going to take a bit of a tangent here, if I may. Hear me out. Texting has taken on an odd role in our day-to-day lives. Well, being a tool used for quickly messaging anyone, it gives us a flexibility that a lot of modes of communication wouldn't. It allows us space to think out what we say before rattling off insane half-assed thoughts that come to us willy-nilly, out of the ether or whatever the fuck. I get how that's a good thing. In fact, in the book, it talks about how the younger people, the youngsters, texting has changed the way they interact with other people. With just that in mind, younger folks have acquired an aversion to holding vocal conversations over the phone. The way phones are supposed to be used. They've come to rely on that time and space that's available in texting to think out what they want to say. And phone conversations just, they're in the moment. They don't allot for that. Whereas in the past, an actual phone conversation was the primary mode of communication, as I said, you had to actually hold a conversation over in real time, thinking on the fly of what you wanted to say, and almost like a face-to-face meeting in the real world, but without faces. They don't have any faces. Now with texting, it's no faces, no voice, just words on a screen. The humanity of the thing is almost completely stripped away, as I said in the jokey joke. So you get that mental space and everything, and also you get kind of a mental disconnection that comes with just seeing text on a screen. You don't have to address the emotional impact of how it affects the other person, really. It's just text on a screen. As far as we're concerned, subconsciously to our animalian brain or whatever, it's all kind of one-sided, deep down. There's no one to see or hear, and you can create an emotional wall, and you on your side create the emotional context for both sides, yours and theirs. I think this is in large part due to how we've adapted to instant messaging and the like over the last few decades, mixed in with the anonymity that online commenting and communications with celebrities on places like Twitter afford. I think we need to, personally, inject a little more humanity into texting. Maybe an unspoken rule that should a text you're about to send need more nuance than you feel the text will convey. Maybe send one saying, hey, I'm going to call you because I want to make sure I don't give you the wrong idea here. Or, I think this requires more nuance than a text affords. Give them a heads up and say, hey, let me talk to you so you can hear what I'm trying to say. It's time to actually call the other person, at some points when it seems like maybe this might read a little vague. So there's no confusion and not fucking any panicking about it. Just saying. Where we are now, the act of texting allows you to straight up abandon and drop people too, with no consequences at all for the emotional whatever, for the dropper. I mean, what do you care, right? God, they were so boring or creepy or whatever. Just cut out and walk away. No explanation needed. It's made a safe space for everyone that lets people act like assholes. Anyway, It turns out texting has handicapped a younger swath of humanity, apparently, by giving them panic attacks at the mere idea of having to talk to someone in real time and hear them react in kind. I mean, I get it. I'm as socially inept as the next person, but feeding into the vicious cycle helps no one. Maybe we need some changes, like I said, just a thought. Just a thought. Aziz addresses this in the book when bringing up his Tanya thing. He relates it as an anecdote about his girlfriend, in which a delayed text response creates a vacuum that the receiver fills with anxious thoughts of having made the other person mad, that something went wrong with the interaction and more. It's very stress-inducing, is the basic idea he conveys. Tip from the book about the appropriate time to respond to a text. 3 minutes, folks. Apparently that's just long enough to formulate a thought, type it all out while causing the least anxiety and dread, anticipation, stress, and all that on the receiver's end. So take a fucking note or something, just to, I don't know, nice thing to do, I guess. So that texting stress of waiting and communicating with the audience in that pseudo bit made him think that maybe there's more to this with the general population, and it sent him on a quest to find out in what ways technology has affected the practice of courtship and dating in general. To do that, Mr. Aziz Ansari wanted to get actual scientifically based answers to fill out his understanding and, maybe make a book out of it. Aziz contacts Kleinenberg via a book publisher agent person, someone who brought Aziz Ansari's idea for the book about dating in modern times. Someone he told about it, he gets him in contact with Kleinenberg. I will now speculate upon how that conversation and or meeting went by deftly portraying it with my indomitable voice acting prowess. Aziz. Hey man, what's up? Yo, I had this dope idea for a book about people hooking up, but I want to put that smart shit in it about dating. So it's not some lame quips and failed stand-up bits about dating. Help me out. Kleinenberg. Okay, I'll do the science stuff and put together questions and like organize some focus groups. And I'll put together a raft of I guess, research papers. I'm sure there are studies. Excuse me. Hello? Are you listening? Aziz. Blah, 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 boring stuff. I totally fell asleep while you were saying all that. I'm off to eat sushi, or ironic things, and argue about IPH and how it's going to be lame next week. Text me the deets. Kleinenberg. Sure, Aziz. I'll put together a plan, I guess, and contact various venues with which to hold open interviews. Actually, I mean, what do you think about motherfucker? Why you put your finger to a mouth? Allegedly. Okay, I know that was insulting in multiple ways, and I'm sorry. Though, side note here, full disclosure, I don't get the appeal of Aziz Ansari, up to and including his alleged mouth-fingering activity. I think I mentioned that earlier. There, I said it. He seems to be very smart. I mean, I saw an interview about him saying that he had learned Italian while he was filming Master of None in Italy, and so he's smart, no doubt. I mean, that's interesting. I guess he learned Italian. Though his comedy and shtick, it's something I just can't get a handle on. I don't know. Back to the book. Sorry. After learning his reasons for writing the book, he takes us on a journey through first how earlier generations of people used to find each other and build relationships. We're talking people in the 1950s on up, I guess, somewhat. I mean, it goes back a little further, but anyway, maybe the 80s and 90s. It really doesn't give specific time frames. Still, you get it. Pre-internet, smartphones, and cell phone times, before all that. Let's talk about that for a second. That time. This should come as no surprise. Well, not to older folks listening. Proximity played a big part in how people chose their respective companions or, husbands, wives, whatever. According to the book, 30.26%. 30.26. 30.26% of people in Philadelphia in 1932 met their spouses within 20 plus blocks of where they grew up. Though the next highest number was 17.8 who met their spouses from a different city. At 12.64% were from the same address. That of course meaning the same apartment building, not the same family from the same physical address. That would have been a whole other level of fucked up. That would radically have changed the tone of this whole book. Ugh.
It's time for an ad break.
For fuck's sake, are you kidding?
How do you expect Elton to make a living?
Maybe with consistency, quality, personality. Are you kidding?
The ad break starts now!
From about 1950 to 2014, the average age of people getting married for the first time in the U.S. went from 20 for women and 23 for men to 27 for women and 30 for men by 2014, respectively, This was in large part due to women getting to enter the workforce in greater numbers and diverse jobs, diversifying their jobs beyond the home and all that shit. A more liberal social acceptance of the single lady. That was a big cultural shift for independence for women, and of course, more men deciding to be gay. What does that mean? It means that around the late 1960s, when homosexuality was discovered, a lot of men simply chose to be homosexual, leaving a lot of women to venture out further from their normal residential limits to find a suitable mate. Gone were the days of courting a guy that lived nearby, maybe you even grew up with him, and then dating and marrying him, or, going steady or whatever. After the discovery of homosexuality, again, in the late 1960s, women found themselves trying to initiate a more intimate deepening of a relationship with a guy to discover that he now chose to be gay. Often, it would play out something like this. A woman would approach a neighbor she's known for years. She thinks he's cute, and asks him on a date after finding him at school, a park, or the local soda shop, because those were everywhere. I'm guessing. She would approach him, and it would go something like this.
Hi, Marvin. I don't know how to say this. I'm so nervous.
Go on, Luann.
Well, here goes nothing. See, Marvin, I think you're just dreamy, and I wanted to know if you'd want to go on a date or maybe get a burger sometime or something.
Golly, that sounds swell and all, Luann, but here's the thing. I just recently discovered this new thing called homosexuality, and by Jove, I kind of dig it, I have to say, I really, really love the cock. I like me some cock, over what you're working with. So, I don't know how far this would go. As I love penis, and the vagina, not so much. Sorry, Luann.
Gosh, I understand, Marvin. Thank you for your honesty. Damn, homosexuality strikes again.
No. That's completely stupidly absurd. No. Women and men found themselves venturing further out from their normal community spheres, often finding and taking partners from further away, or they would move completely by themselves. Oh my God, they would move completely by themselves, etc. Fucking words today. More independence that didn't rely on marriage made a large impact on where and how people found each other. And as technology transformed how people interact with each other, so too did it change how we found our intimate partners, or their intimate partners, or everyone's intimate partners. Aziz and Kleinenberg used focus groups more or less as a primary source or anecdotal. I'm not sure the terminology. I'm not a professional researcher, so I don't know. But you get it. During 2013 and 2014, Kleinenberg and Ansari conducted focus groups and interviews and such with hundreds of people in New York, Los Angeles, Wichita, Monroe, New York, Buenos Aires, Tokyo, Paris, and Doha. The groups were diverse, and they wound up having very incredibly personal conversations with a lot of these people. Not only that, but many of the people that participated in these groups volunteered to share their phones with Aziz and Kleinenberg. Kleinenberg said that this was because Aziz has such a easygoing personality, and he's famous, and well known, so they felt comfortable giving their phones over to him, which, I mean, that's weird, but I get it. So it allowed Aziz and Kleinenberg to more or less track their interaction, the people's interactions with other people, text chains, more accurately. And they read emails, and they were given access to online dating sites and swipe apps like Tinder. This stuff was revelatory because it revealed how actual romantic encounters played out in real people's lives. Kleinenberg said it was unprecedented access to the real-world inner workings of things usually specifically revealed via surveys or interviews. Interviews that Kleinenberg felt that, despite the promise of anonymity, were always somewhat guarded as far as what information was given. And again, he said it was because Aziz was a celebrity and therefore familiar in a way, and having a natural kind of, way about him, personality, easygoing, and his disposition and everything. People opened up in a way that someone performing a sociological study normally wouldn't get. Atop all that, Aziz made a heretofore unknown startling discovery during these sessions and things that seemed to shake Ansari to his very core. It appeared that literally none of the people that he and Kleinenberg talked to when talking to these random folks, none of the people liked having fingers randomly shoved into their mouths and throats, even if they were making out with them. This blew Ansari's mind. Okay, maybe that didn't happen, but maybe it should have. Allegedly. Sorry, I just can't get over that whole thing. In reality, while making the book, Ansari and Mr. Kleinenberg would take their traveling interview house of dating horrors on the road and interview people from around the world to see how terrible dating was for them in their own countries. Highlights include the revelation that men in Buenos Aires are overly aggressive and have a real hard time taking no for an answer. Also, not that respectful of age gaps either. I mean, eesh. My favorite highlight of the foreign escapades in the book, and I'm going to paraphrase this, was Aziz talking to a lady in France who brings up that sometimes in a club, guys will just straight up ask, fancy a fuck? Aziz, stepping outside of his comfort zone and into that of reason, asks, wow, so what do you tell guys who throw that out there? To which the woman answers, well, I mean, it depends on whether I fancy a fuck or not. Just, wow. Also, good for them. I think that's very forward-thinking in a world full of manufactured moral hindrance. There's a very interesting section on how odd the dynamics of Japanese dating has evolved, to the point of having places that cater to men who pay to play act, that they have a girl who just listens to them. I mean, seriously. Just paying a woman to listen to them and maybe hold their hand or something or rub their back, it's odd. Moreover, the entire dating scene is about not being aggressive to the point of almost avoiding the opposite sex, but yet being frustrated that the opposite sex isn't asking them out on dates. It's a lot. To the point of people using a picture of an electric rice cooker, as their profile pics. And that being acceptable for online profiles and preferred. It's just wild. It's a very compelling read from a sociological and dating standpoint. Of course, I know fuck all about either one, so take this with a grain of salt. Plus, there's parts in the book that are just, they're interesting. I mean, who would have thought being able to judge people based on looks alone would be so popular? Yet so unsatisfying, right? As it would happen, that don't judge a book by its cover horse shit you've heard your whole life is pretty damned on point. Well, except when it's being leveled at strangers, secretly, for funsies, right? As much as we shit on people judging other people, we fucking love to do it. But that's a topic for another episode. Once I track down that book. A book about that. As far as this book goes, though, don't judge people by looks alone, or, as you find out in this book, by first impressions alone either. It's a little strange to say, but it kind of works like this. If the person you meet gives you the feeling of, they're interesting and attractive enough, that should be enough for a second date. Seriously. Aziz recalls the experience of literally traveling to meet someone for their first date and using the travel time to scroll through apps and set up a different date for when the one he's not even there and not even on yet falls through. That's a wild notion to me. Why do some people do this? Because technology and the internet serves up and gives you access to, for the first time in human history, everybody. Yeah, so this has created a paradox of choice when it comes to finding that special someone. For a better explanation of paradox of choice, I turn to the one and only
Whoa, hey, buddy, what, wait, why? Why?
Because I'm kind of in a shitty place right now mentally.
I don't see how that's my problem.
I could really use
a
break for a second.
No. Oh,
please.
Okay. Fine. Paradox of choice refers to the psychological phenomenon where having too many options can lead to decision paralysis and dissatisfaction with the choice ultimately made, often because they are constantly comparing it to other potential options. In essence, what Aziz and Eric are saying is that because of technology and the multitude of opportunities to meet someone that all the websites, apps, and friends, workplace, and more provide, it can lead some people to think that there is always going to be a possible better or more perfect person out there for them, just beyond the figurative horizon. Rather than getting to know the person in front of you, you're always looking over your shoulder to find a mythical better mate, which in almost every case doesn't exist. Because, come on, nobody is perfect, and thinking that their peculiarities perfectly match yours is asking a bit much, So ultimately, the paradox of choice ends up leaving you alone, or always grumbling that you are. Oh my God! Is that a muffin in your hand?
I don't want to talk about it.
Did you seriously just play on my empathy regarding mental health distress just to get a muffin?
It's got blueberries in it.
Goodbye, Elton.
Blueberries. Worth it. Moving on. So like she said, instead of trying to develop a meaningful relationship with someone who checks most of the boxes of what you want in a person, you dump out of it before it has a chance to develop into something more meaningful. Instead, choosing to continue the hunt for that mythical perfect companion / true love situation. What ends up happening is an endless search instead of a relationship. Blows my fucking mind what we do to ourselves in the name of fantasy over reality. Would that work in any other situation? Like, damn, I need a car, and there's so many to choose from. I have all these car buying apps and sites to compare features and pricing. Hey, I found one that has almost everything I want. I wonder if there's a better deal. You know what? Guy that was going to sell me that car, keep it. I'll wait for something better. A decade later, you've got no friends because you can't walk miles to their houses, and you have a shit job because it's the only one within walking distance, and huge legs because you've walked everywhere for years. All the while thinking, there's a better deal. Just have to keep looking. That is nuts. It's one thing I learned from reading this. There's no such thing as settling when you actually get to know a person. But there is such a thing as being alone in a sea of people. Who knew that opening everyone up to being able to communicate so easily would affect everything in such unpredictable ways? Almost like someone you'd invite into your house for a nice night out, things turn intimate, and then out of nowhere they're jamming their fingers down your throat. Why, Aziz? Why? Allegedly. The book wholeheartedly understands that, and really goes to great lengths to explore the idea from a lot of angles. Not the mouth fingering, but the technology-changing interaction stuff. Nobody understands the mouth fingering. I don't know. Well, unless it's between two consenting adults. Even then, I'm fairly certain only a few among us get that appeal. Who is comfortably shaking... By the way, who is comfortably shaking Aziz Ansari's hands these days? So many questions. Allegedly. Hitting on everything from how dating has changed to how people are using apps. Tinder and Grindr alone, those sexy apps. If fucking a stranger is wrong, they don't want to be right, because that is their entire business model. That nonsense aside, the abundance of choice and the notion of thinking you know what you want, but you actually not knowing what you want comes up too. The culprit of modern technology and its delivery of all those people to choose from, and all the myriad of profiles to go through, and the fact that you can filter out what you don't want and check the boxes of what you do, leads people into a false sense that I know exactly what I like, and I believe my perfect person will, of course, be a lot of those things. What a lot of folks find instead is that opposites attract isn't just a good thing for magnets or weird movie relationships, but for real life too. Hell, even things that only are slightly different than what you would want, what you would think attracts you, or sometimes, again, opposites. It's surprising what works for people. Okay, so say you're a big fan of randomly inserting your fingers into people's mouths without asking, and you're presented with a list of people and their relevant likes and dislikes. Certainly, you would think that people that check the finger-fucking random mouths would be the best match for you. Instead, what you find out is often what you like to do isn't what you like other people to do, or what you like other people to like. So using the weird mouth invasion example, you're on a date and you're going on about Harvey Weinstein and his contribution to the furtherment of understanding the dynamic imposed by the patriarchy on wearing a fucking finger. I don't know, goddammit. You find that maybe you like the idea of being the mouth finger fucker and not the finger fucky, so to speak. So, with the abundance of contacts, vast numbers of potential dates, coupled with people's brains locking them into a paradox of choice situation, and often not considering that they think they want what they want, might not actually be what they actually want, seems to be exacerbated with the modern communication tech, social media, and the whole bit. Something like that. You probably understood all of that long before I did all that. Oh, shit. Allegedly. You know what I'm referring to. Kleinenberg and Ansari really put together a true rarity in this book, and something that's both a snapshot of a time and a state of dating and tech of a certain era, but also showing that problems associated with dating are in a lot of ways universal across all of time, regardless of technology. Take, for instance, that 90% of your fate when trying to find an online date relies heavily on the photos you pick. Because, of course, presentation is everything, right? It always has been. It has always been. No, if you're wondering, 56% of women, the book says, choose to go with a straightforward smiling pic, while 9% are slightly more successful when they put a pic up, giving a flirtatious look to the camera because, yeah, of course, right? What works in a bar, a block party, or hell, a cornfield would absolutely work online. Oh, also a selfie taken aiming down from a high angle with a slightly coy look works best to get a guy to message you, followed by a shot of being in bed or outdoor and travel pics. The least effective for women are women drinking alcohol and posing with an animal. Now, for men, kind of the opposite. The most effective are posing with animals, followed by showing off muscles, six-pack abs, etc. Being outdoors, drinking, and travel photos were least effective. What works best is not smiling and looking away from the camera into the middle distance or looking like you're contemplating something. Okay. Despite my deficit of dating knowledge, I understand its importance in establishing a relationship and building it. I've seen enough sitcoms, rom-coms, and I'm sure I'm missing a com somewhere, but I've seen them to understand its importance, dating's importance, which I've built up a theory about. It involves our understanding, expectations, and how we've learned to develop relationships of various stripes being largely based on the fictitious dynamics and relationships we've seen played out in pop culture since birth. It's a little complex, I'll give you that, and mostly irrelevant, to all of this, so I'll move on. Oh, Hollywood, you've invaded our minds and laid the profitable eggs of unreasonable expectations. Curse and bless you. Regardless of my nonsense, if you're going to make a go of having a relationship, you're going to have to navigate this modern romance maze. Unfortunately, you can't just blackmail someone's parents to force someone to marry you anymore, like in the golden olden days. And unless you're very skilled at hypnotism, you're going to have to participate in some form of dating to approximate that kind of relationship. You're going to have to actually convince someone they like you long enough for them to stick around. Hell, even marry your sorry ass. Sorry. I didn't mean to call your ass sorry. And it's not easy, believe me. I'm dreading the day my wife wises up and the hypnosis wears off. Aziz and Kleinenberg found that a lot of stories and anecdotes regarding marriage were roughly the same. To their surprise, most involved the swapping of livestock for a hand in marrying a daughter or son. Now the trade wasn't always straightforward. Often the groom's side of the arrangement preferred to include some form of livestock that he and his family deemed quote, sexy, unquote, with very little attention being paid to the bride at all, up to and including their success or attractiveness unto themselves, or at the bare minimum comparing he or she to the livestock involved. This, Kleinenberg postulated, is likely the reasoning behind the 50% of marriages ending in divorce. People just can't compete with livestock or sex with it. Aziz speculates that the texture of fur and enormous genitalia might have something to do with it, but Kleinenberg is quick to say that Aziz's proposal for finding similar animals, as mentioned in the various interviews, and fucking them, wasn't scientific and couldn't be done within the confines of their agreed-upon budget. Aziz was visibly disappointed, the book goes on to note, as he had already started fucking all those animals. Wow. Well, that took a turn, huh? That took a wild turn. Imagine for even a second that any of that insanity was real. Like Aziz Ansari wrote a book that states 50% of American divorces occurred because people preferred bestiality to sex with a human being, and nobody mentioned it, like in the news or anything, anywhere. It just kind of slipped by the entire world unnoticed. Yeah, of course, that was, all the animal sex was just insanity. I'm in the goddamn weeds again. Keep it together, Elton. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure my heart's in this one. I've had a lot of shit go down with me lately, and it's been a bit disconcerting. My fucking roof went to shit completely now. I've been nursing it along for a good long bit, but it's finally given up the ghost, and I had to drop $1,500. And I had to shed a lifelong fear of heights and subject family members to possible injury to help fix the problem. So forgive me for tangents. I need them. Back to Aziz's dating guide to continued loneliness. It's found that marriage is trending towards later in life now, if it happens at all. So maybe you're not even in the market or don't want to be. Largely, it seems the delay is due to a prolonged period of sustained early adulthood, wherein newer generations, I guess, have a longer period of independence and freedom than previous generations did. It would have been neat to see if this prolonged period is affected by economic standing, but I also wish I had a few $1 billion in endless life. So the book stops just shy of getting married, the reasoning being that Aziz wasn't married or about to be married or anything when he wrote the book. And he didn't feel he was near enough to that point to offer any insight. Still, the book is immensely helpful, despite Aziz's prediction that the book would quickly become out of date with dated references to obsolete tech. I mean, it's kind of like that, but overall, it's still pretty relevant and good. A lot of the finer points he discovers along the way still hold true, despite all the talk of modernity and technology changing how people date. It reveals a lot about the dynamics of modern socialization, but also shows how much things haven't changed. I think this is in large part to Kleinenberg steering the substance of the ship, while Ansari inserts half-assed jokes, if I may mix metaphors a bit. If I did any metaphors at all. Like, for instance, the anxiety that accompanies the waiting for a reply when engaged in text-based communications and stuff, text threads, and how that's often amplified when it comes to anything romantic, that anxiety and that anticipation. Ansari quips with an anecdote about waiting for his girlfriend to respond to a question he asked, and the anxiety that builds within him while he waits. Am I putting these digits in your throat hole or what, woman? Is the question he asked. Allegedly. So how does all of this help you? With some dating tips on how to go about dating in the modern age as hell. Here are a few dating tips to help you hopefully end that years-long masturbation streak and or Daki Makura fucking. You know what I'm talking about. These are in no particular order. 1. Don't just text, hey, and expect anything to come of it. In the book, there's a bit where Ansari scrolls through a lady's texts and sees dozens and dozens of texts that simply read, hey. Apparently, it's a non-starter for most people. Instead, text with a point. The perfect text would include a callback to a bit of personal information gathered about the recipient during the first initial encounter or meeting, and then have an interesting direction and point to your whole text. For instance, rather than just, hey, you could say something like, hi, this is Elton. We met at that site of that hit and run. You said you really liked the band on that t-shirt, the Bike Messenger, that was pronounced DOA. That band is playing this Friday downtown. Let's go. Or, something like that. 2, stop being pointless. Endless back and forth about possibly meeting up somewhere to do something, or hey, here's what I'm having for lunch, or whatever, and being vague about everything is a big dead end for women and men. Instead, your text should point to definite things, an event, an interesting thing to do, a solid place to eat at a scheduled time, and then you can discuss all the banal, mundane bullshit you were tossing around or thinking of tossing around in text. Pointing to something definite, it'll help you establish that you're serious, and it'll let you know if they're serious. If they're constantly shooting down things you bring up, or they're not able to go, and they've always got something else to do, then you know. Just talking about a toaster you bought isn't going to get you anywhere. 3, your shit grammar and half-ass texting is a big turnoff for everybody. It's weird that texting friends and family like a half-wit doesn't carry over to people you're trying to make a good impression on, or with, however that works. Jesus, my grammar's shit too, huh? If half your texts are emoji, you're probably not going to seal the deal with some ass. Just saying. A good sentence ending with proper damn it. Just saying. Fuck. A good sentence ending with proper punctuation. There it is. I fucking nailed it. That goes a long way. Number 4. If you're not interested, just kind of lie. Just say it in a lie. Seriously, it's best to say you've gotten back together with an ex, you're working a lot of overtime, or entering in the witness protection program in an hour for maybe turning someone in on a hit and run. I don't know why I keep saying hit and runs. And, tell them you're entering the witness protection program in an hour and you're saying tearful goodbyes to your parents for the next 6 to 8 weeks or something. And that's the last. That's all I have as far as tips go. There's a lot more in the book. There really is a lot more. Now, sexting. Yeah, it's a sin and you shouldn't do it. God sees all and thinks you're a pervert for engaging in that kind of shit. You're a sicko. A sicko. Go back to church if you want to whip out your junk and take pictures and send them. Keep it to church. No. Sext all you want. God doesn't care. Talking to him last night, he specifically said, yeah, cool, whatevs. It's a real quote. Actual words. Not lying. Maybe. Here are the best stats on sexting that the book could find way back in the ancient times of 2015. In no order or whatever. I'm not even going to number them. Here's one. Half of 18 to 24-year-olds have received sexts. Another one. 1/3 of older teens have sent a sext. So that's comforting. You are more likely to sext if you own a smartphone. Okay, because of course, sure. Back then, they didn't have many smartphones in the 2015s. Did they? Pretty sure they did. Anyway, you're a lot more likely to do it if you have a smartphone. Also, people who own iPhones are twice as likely to sext as people with Androids because iPhone owners are all perverts. You are. That's who they're selling to. That's why they make them look all sexy, because they know you're one of those deviants. No, I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, apparently iPhone folks, are twice as likely to sext as people with Androids. The most popular time to sext is Tuesday between 10 a.m. and noon, which is weird. And according to Aziz in the book, they check that twice. So Tuesday between 10 a.m. and noon, that's when you're going to do your sexting. People who are married and or in committed relationships are just as likely to have sent sexts as their unattached peers. So there you go. There you have it, you Apple product perverts. A short list of how hellbound you are with your phone sexting. I hope you're happy. Will the fervor of a zealot ever not be funny for me? Probably. Maybe one day it'll wear off. Probably. All in all, Modern Romance is an interesting book at a weird little time when all of this smartphone shit was just starting to really infiltrate the institution of dating. I guess you could call it that. Yet, it's also a really good practical guide to being more successful in dating and finding that special someone to do things with a wiffle ball bat with. Plus, there's parts about cheating in it and how other countries' dating scenes have changed and just... It's very in-depth. It's all very interesting from a sociological bent. That's actually very accessible, I found. It was really neat. I actually liked it a lot. All of the advice in it, too, if you can read past the tech spin, it's pretty timeless and still holds true today. Overall, it's more like if you like someone, just give it time. Don't just cut and run. And stop wasting people's time with vague notions of how you and they could possibly think about spending time together sometime and maybe in the future. Just be honest, too, if you don't like someone, instead of ghosting a motherfucker. I mean, what do you care if you hurt their feelings, right? You were never going to text them again anyway. So what the fuck? I mean, but in general, it is really neat. So if you find it somewhere like I did, I think I found it at a... So if you find it around somewhere, Aziz Ansari, Modern Romance, it's a really good book. It's a nice add to the library or whatever. if you're into the dating scene or just want to, I don't know, gain more perspective on the human condition. It's really good read, and his jokes aren't all terrible. And they don't all involve finger fucking people's throats, allegedly. None of them involve that. But I mean, none of them involve that. And now, the indomitable Lemon McNally's When Life Gives You Lemon.
The other day I was neck-deep in writer's block and looking to swap intractability with imbibing the only socially acceptable addiction worth a damn these days, coffee. So I slunk into one of those coffee chains that's leeching life out of world culture and turning it into whatever Times Square is now, you know? Bright lights, overpriced tchotchkes, and not a hooker in sight. Man, sometimes I miss those old porn theaters. Not so much for jerking off in public, but for the people watching. It's like a depravity parade, God bless it. You have no idea of the colorful cornucopia of humanity that exists until you see it trying to hide its face behind the collar of a trench coat at a Debbie Does Dallas matinee. But that's for a different time. This time, old Lemon needed his Arabica bean fix. So I shuffled up to the cold glow of the inevitability of late-stage capitalism, cannibalizing itself. The kiosk. My pointer finger as my oar, I rafted through the stock images of the house offerings and let my mind drift as I poked in the added or subtracted subtleties of my mocha latte fix. And suddenly, an epiphany. Amid the screen asking me if I'm staying or going. A notion of what might be on Judgment Day. The Jesus one, not the Terminator one. I looked at that kiosk and thought, yeah, I'm getting left behind because holy shit have I done some unholy shit. I mean, there were a few weekends in my early 20s that more than qualify me for Satan's Lake of Fire jamboree and testicle stapling extravaganza. But looking at that kiosk, I couldn't help but think that Jesus, after Jesus takes all the believers up to the cloud kingdom for harp lessons, this kiosk is going to more than cover the difference of their absences. Yep. I think I'll be poking at this kiosk to dole out my liquid penance long after Jesus is faithful or skydiving backwards. And somehow, I don't feel all that bad. Because deep down, I really fucking hate people. And the less the better. And when Jesus shows up to thin the herd, I'm not sure I'll mind. As I swipe my card at the godforsaken kiosk and wait for my stimulating mocha brown colon cleanse, I can't help but think, God bless you, kiosk. May you see me through the bad times, then the best of times, and what's sure to be the worst of times. I salute you.
Thank you for listening to Elton Reads a Book a Week. If you liked this episode or the podcast, please think about supporting it through Patreon, which I need to dump more shit into. I know. You can message me about your hatred of this podcast or your like or dislike at Elton Reads a Book a Week at gmail.com. And I will read it and I will respond to it. And all that, but I respond quicker on Patreon. Money. Okay. And follow the podcast and all the socials and all that shit. You know, the Facebooks and the TikTok. I have a TikTok thing. I'm going to start doing that more, I think. I'm going to fucking... I need to dump my day job is what I need to do. Anyway. Thank you for listening. Oh, and, share the podcast. It helps so much. And if you want to rate and review it, that also helps too. Give it a thumbs up on things if you see it floating around, or share it with a friend or an enemy or a friend of an enemy or a friend of an enemy's friend who's also your enemy's friend of an enemy who's your friend and your mom. Thank you above all else. So thank you for listening to this episode and the other episodes. I really do appreciate it. I like doing this stuff. So, thank you. And this week, you should really read a book. Start a book. Read a book. Crack a book open and start reading it. Buy one. Even an audiobook. Audiobooks count. I don't care what anyone says. They do count. So read a book. Don't let them die out. Okay? Come on. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's the end of Elton.
Thank you.
Reads a book a week.
Oh no!
Didn't you know?
Go!
What? No! It's just the end of this episode. That's good, I guess. Thank you for listening. Wait, you guessed?
We digress!
Thanks for listening to Elton Reads a Book a Week.
Elton